Hey everyone, it's Coach Mark here. And before I dive into today's topic, make sure to find me over on Instagram as Coach Mark Estrubio. I also offer one-to-one coaching. It's what I do full time, and the odds are very good. I would love to work with you. With that being said, let's get into it. And as far as today's topic, what I'm going to be talking about today is an alternate split you might use if you're training 4 times a week, which is the 1-1-2 split, which is one lower, one upper, and then two full body sessions. Now, when it comes to running programs, I generally reach for one of three training splits, either a 3 times a week full body, a lower body, upper body, and full body split, or a two upper and two lower split. However, I recently had an athlete that during a training week he had to go down from 4 days a week to 3 days a week. It's something we've done a few times before, and in general, we would just take the tail end upper lower days and combine them into one day. We would, of course, drop some exercises because I'm not going to have him do 12 exercises in a single session. That's just a little bit silly. But what happened is when I was getting his feedback for the week, he said he actually really enjoys those full body days as he felt like he got a lot out of them and he had a ton of energy to attack each and every movement. So the 1-1-2 split is something I have used in the past, and it's something I decided to dig out of the archives for him in terms of helping improve his programming. Additionally, when I shared an infographic carousel about this exact split on Instagram, it seemed like a lot of people were very intrigued by it, so here we are. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why on earth would I do a 1-1-2 split? Sometimes the reality is 4 times a week, just bog standard of the upper-lower approach, can be very rigid and hard to balance in between heavy lifting, your skill development and recovery, let alone your life obligations. However, on the other side of things, 3 times a week of full body may not give you the volume and intensity you necessarily need to get that progress. Also, there's some weeks where you want to do 4 days a week, but maybe there's other weeks you can only do 3 days a week. Essentially, 1-1-2 hedges our bets, and it sits somewhere in between the 2x upper lower progression as well as the lower upper full body split. So if you look on screen right now, you're going to see two examples of the two lower, two upper split that I'll often run with my athletes. There's one that's tailored more towards the power building crowd as well as one tailored more towards the strongman crowd. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show a case example of how you might modify each one to be that 1-1-2 style progression. And we're going to start with our power builder. So with our Power Builder, if we look at this program, it's a good, basic, reliable program here. For those of you unfamiliar, a lot of my programs use a modified conjugate method where in intensive days replace max effort, where it's often something like a heavy 5 to 8, and then developmental days replace dynamic effort, where instead of speed work, we might do something such as max sets of 5 at 60% in 15 minutes. Regardless, main thing I want you looking at is the exercises themselves and just the overall flow of the day. Now, the program itself was programmed about him having a garage gym with just a couple nice extra pieces there. So again, relatively basic overall, but highly effective. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pretend that his wife decided to join a local Planet Fitness. So on Saturdays, he's going to go there with her and make use of the machines and maybe a few specialty pieces he doesn't have access to. Now, what you'll see is for the most part, the first 2 days are relatively unchanged. It's those latter 2 developmental days that see the most change. And what we've done is on full body day 1, it's still very compound heavy because you have the strict press, you have the trap bar deadlift still showing up, for example. Whereas full body 2, we're using a lot of machines and extra pieces he may not have access to. You'll also notice that we got rid of the bent over barbell row that was being performed on upper intensive and instead replaced that with dumbbell rows just to reduce low back fatigue before he goes into full body day 1. And then in full body day 2, we're going to have him doing a chest supported row machine because he now has access to one. We're using the preacher curl machine, just letting him hit those muscles from a different angle. And it's in such a way that, especially for isolation movements, machines are really nice because there's less to set up versus doing it in a garage gym. It simplifies the whole process and allows him to focus in on just high intensity efforts. Of course, he can't drop those weights because he is at a Planet Fitness, but hey, that's all right. The other big thing we did is we moved hamstring curls around. So now he actually has access to a hamstring curl machine rather than just doing ultra high rep banded hamstring curls, which can get a little bit draining mentally. It's just a great way of adding some variety into his training program. Now, our second case example, we're going to look at a strongman athlete. If we look at his program here, relatively simplistic. Lower intensive, we'll have our deadlift variation, some good mornings, chin-ups, a lunge variation, abs. Then our upper intensive day, we're focusing on strict pressing strength as well as a bench variation. Lower developmental, it's front squats, some sort of RDL, moving event work. And then on upper developmental, we're going to do his primary competition press, a Dick's press or some other sort of tricep dominant press. Then we're actually going to move into a row variation, ideally with a sandbag or a stone, to help warm him up for the loading event work. And then after that, Turkish get-ups for core, shoulder stability work, and just all around. And in this case, what we're going to say is that our strongman athlete, they're finding that their schedule is a bit hectic. They know they can do 3 days a week. There might be some weeks, however, they are able to do 4. Also, mentally, they may not be as focused on training as they used to be because, well, life's been a little hectic, and that's why they know for a fact they can only do 3 consistently, but are really hoping to get in 4. Now, if you look on screen, what you'll see here is how we went around and 1-1-2'd his training split. So overall, the days aren't that different on the first 2 days. Main difference you're going to see is on the lower intensive day, which is day 1, we added in a moving event to replace the lunge variation. That way, in the event he is only training for 3 days that week, we still get all of our event work done in the form of a moving/carrying event, a loading event, as well as his overhead press. And remember, this is an off-season type template. So in the off-season, you're not training the events as heavy, you're mainly doing skill developmental work. And then on day 3, we're going to use that front squat as a primer before we go into the log clean and push press. And remember, with developmental days, we're not going as heavy as possible. We're refining technique, maybe doing speed or density work. And a front squat done, especially with straps before your push press, will help cue a good bit of leg drive. And then that strap position on the front squat has a lot of transference to your rack position with the log. And then after that, we'll do some sort of sandbag or similar row. We'll go into some loading event work. Then we'll top off with Turkish get-ups and maybe a little extra triceps if they have time. Because again, this is a semi-condensed training week, each day might take on just a little bit more volume if we are able. And then his 4th day of the week, and remember, this is the day that he may not get done every single week. This is where we're going to splash in some form of single leg work, such as lunges, his tricep dominant press, such as a Dick's press, another vertical pull of our choosing, leg press, some delt isolation, and biceps. This is going to make it so he's hitting those weak links on day 4, or maybe he can make up accessory movements from days 1 to 3, depending on how that week went for him. But then if he does miss that workout, it's relatively low stakes, and it doesn't create that negative stress for him throughout the week where he goes, oh, I missed my 4th day, my training's falling apart, because we got all the heavy hitters done on days 1 through 3. Now, don't get it twisted. This is not a training split that I regularly reach for. There's just some unique cases where it can be very beneficial. Another example where you might consider this is if you need to be doing some sort of bench 3 times a week. This is a really good option for a powerlifting type candidate. Additionally, let's say you're on a standard 3-day-a-week program right now and you want to add that 4th day, but you're not sure if you can make it consistently and you're running, let's say, lower upper full body or maybe 3x full body. Day 4 could be nothing but upper back and arms, especially using dumbbells and machines, and you're not going to go wrong with that type of approach because that's a very common weak link for most of us in terms of either our strength or if you are more the poise rather than power type. Bigger arms, never a bad idea, although you should probably add in some single leg work on that day because most of you skip your single leg work. But again, think about day 4 as a lower stress, lower stakes day. That way it creates a semi-flexible split. Alternatively, you can just use it as a low stress day, and if you want to make day 3 a higher stress training day in your week. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Hopefully you found something useful in this video. I always appreciate comments and questions down below. The best comments and questions are ones I will turn into topic videos down the road. And until next time, you folks stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.